Welcome, everybody, to podcast number 351. We're going to continue talking about the Takt production system. We are on episode number, like I said, 351, and we are going to talk about part number 15, and that's going to take us right into, let me actually go there real quick, into the good, better, and best. What does the industry do now? Stay with us.
This is the Elevate Construction Podcast, delivering remarkable content for workers, leaders, and companies in construction wanting to take their next step. Get ready to step out of your comfort zone with Jason Schroeder as he encourages you to do better, live a remarkable life, and expect more. Let's go.
Welcome, everybody. I'm excited to read this next portion for you, and so we're really jamming through the book. Like I said, we're over halfway through now, and so you'll enjoy these sections, and I'm going to get right into it. So, good, better, and best. What does the industry do now? Good. Now that we have covered the concept, common definitions, and the critical disciplines needed for a Takt project, it makes sense to anchor that with a brief look into current industry practices as an important preface to what we are suggesting with the use of Takt systems. The master schedule. Currently, in our industry, a master schedule is built using CPM, usually in the proposal phase and detailed to a point that it can be used for short intervals and sometimes day-to-day production. The schedules are built by superintendents or professional schedulers and are updated either weekly or monthly to track progress and identify red flags. The schedule is usually built with a work breakdown structure, completely logic tied, and lastly, with a finish on or before constraint to force the calculation of total float throughout the system. The schedule is designed for production tracking with a large amount of detail and functions primarily to provide milestones. Milestones are arguably the main focus of CPM scheduling in addition to the identification of the critical activities within a given month. Project teams use milestones to rally the team and track progress. These are calculated from the overall network according to typical construction milestone points, where a transition between phases is more easily identified. These are targets that can be compared to look-aheads. Look-ahead schedules are used by the project team to orient subcontractors and plan materials, crew sizes, information, and equipment. Subcontractors are typically given this plan as a directive from the general contractor without much collaboration, and subs are expected, by culture and by contract, to obey the schedule and meet their dates. Work is carried out without asking, what do workers see? The workers do not see any of this planning. They are told what to do by their foreman, who at best attempt to follow the uncollaborative and dictated schedule, and at worst follow their own plan and ignore the requests by the general contractor and their schedule. This results in an environment that is like firefighting in The Office. The famous American sitcom The Office aired an episode entitled Stress Relief, in which Dwight attempts to test fire safety and response skills by locking doors, disengaging phone lines, and starting a small fire in the wastebasket. Pam sees the smoke and screams, "Oh my God!" and everyone panics. The characters break windows, climb into the ceiling, throw a cat, and break into a vending machine. Stanley, who has a heart condition, collapses on the floor following Dwight's belated announcement that the entire thing was a drill. There are similarities between this episode and working on a project governed by CPM the old way. People run around in different directions with a false sense of urgency just to find that the communicated deadlines were either unnecessary or chronically too late anyway. The chaos, lack of direction, and siloed thinking is accompanied by waste and variation, which cause the project to fall behind. Before long, project teams start throwing workers, money, materials, and maybe also some cats at the project in hopes to finish on time, which is the metaphorical equivalent of putting out a fire with $100 bills. It's crazy and yet actually pretty standard in construction. So, what are we being told now? Better. Thankfully, the problems the construction industry has been facing have not gone unnoticed, and many are committed to providing solutions to remedy the situation. Systems like Last Planner and Scrum are being adopted without mincing words about the failures of CPM, and they are making a difference. But to fully turn the tide in this situation, we need to correct the overall master scheduling process by planning with more consistent dates and by better managing supply chains. Let's take a look at what we are being told now. Let's start with the master schedule. The master scheduling we've described remains largely the same, with the adjustment that these schedules should be created at a higher level of detail so last planner and scrum techniques can take over at the right level of detail. The master schedule is still used by the first planners throughout pre-construction and during construction as a long-term planning tool, mainly to identify and track progress towards milestones. Milestones take on a different role in the new system. They used to be compared to actual progress in 3 or 6 week look aheads, but now they form the constrained end date for phase planning efforts with pull planning techniques. The focus of the system is to make clear that milestones have to be hit, but that getting there is a collaborative effort that should be used in a process called phase planning. Phase planning is a process where the project team, under the direction of the project superintendent and/or project manager, anticipates key milestones that represent a phase of work. This planning is usually facilitated with a process called pull planning. Pull planning is a lean process where trade partners, with the project management team, identify the proper sequence of work according to project needs and the needs of each individual contractor. Per tradition, the practitioners usually identify a milestone on the pull planning backdrop and each contractor, after proper preparation and onboarding activities, place tags or stickies on the wall in a format that identifies the point in the sequence, the duration, company name, crew size, and needed predecessors that will allow that activity to take place. The teams create the sequence together through practices and rules that should provide a final sequence that is more realistic than a dictated plan from the general contractor that may have been made in a silo. This coordinated sequence is then included in the overall master schedule or simply placed on planning boards or a project application that houses the data. This new sequence allows the team to filter out make-ready look-aheads. Make-ready schedules are short interval schedules which have been coordinated with on-site constraints, other activities, and the capacity of resources on the project site. It is usually the first schedule that the team uses to foresee roadblocks. Its main purpose is to allow all members of the team to plan accurate dates to which trades plan the delivery of people, equipment, materials, and information. These schedules direct the team's focus towards preparation by removing roadblocks, sometimes called constraints, and planning resources so that more firm commitments can be made when the project team creates the weekly work plan. The weekly work plan is the plan for the next week where detail is pulled from the make-ready schedules in addition to any new detail. Contractors detail out their activities ahead of time and arrive at the meeting prepared to coordinate their work for the next week so that everyone has the space, materials, time, and information needed to complete the work. In future sections, we will show that Takt planning plans and prepares most of the weekly work plan content early on in what is called work packages and work steps. They are leveled and orchestrated into a flow and then show up at the right week for collaboration with the trades. Trades leave with commitments to each other and a single plan that is visually easy to understand, well communicated, and coordinated daily in huddles. The project team huddles every day to discuss plans for the day, safety, and to coordinate logistics as the crews mobilize into key areas. The daily huddle is where on-location and daily planning is done to carry out the weekly work plan. The team's success in doing this is tracked with what is called percent plan complete. Percent plan complete, PPC, is a percentage of tasks completed properly and on time as committed in the weekly work plan. The percentage is tracked daily, weekly, and monthly to show the team their progress in making real commitments and producing as a collaborative team. Teams that score under 80% historically have budget and overall schedule problems, and teams that score above 80% statistically do well with budget and overall schedule. When a date is missed, the team tracks it as a variance, and when variances repeat, the team reflects on how to prevent them in the future. This tends to be fairly useful when a root cause analysis is done that educates the crew for future work, but it is not very useful in preparing work at the production level because it is a lagging indicator and can distract the team from what is most important: the preparation of work packages and the advanced removal of roadblocks. Even though this is well intentioned, the question still not being asked is, what do workers see? In this system, although the weekly work plan and daily huddle attempt a 100% commitment between trades, the workers only see about 40 to 50% of the plan because the system relies heavily on the transfer of information between foremen and workers. Additionally, most of the time the crews still hit the ground running without much pre-planning, and leaders are in huddles at the start of the day when work starts. This usually results in workers losing valuable time when the foremen come out of the meeting and change the plan based on the daily discussions. Although the system is better, it does not get as much information as possible to the worker, and primarily the system is based on milestones that are unrealistically planned in CPM, which again sets up a situation that is unattainable from the start. We know we must support those using Last Planner, so we modify it to cater to an ultimate flow. So let's ask, what should we do? Best for now. The process that we advocate in this book has been lovingly titled the Integrated Production Control System. It is intended to communicate the need for project teams to collaborate, plan, lead as a team, and control an operationally stable environment in the field. With CPM in the old fashion, this was not possible because schedules were created in a silo. CPM with Last Planner or Scrum does not entirely work because the first planner system, CPM, is still done in a silo, even if that changes once Last Planner and Scrum take over. Only when we use a collaborative tool like Takt Planning and Takt Control ahead of Last Planner and Scrum can the entire system, from beginning to end, be fully a team effort. This is the target. This is the goal. Remember back to the analogy of the vortex. Pouring water out alone didn't provide the fastest movement of water. Only when the water was moving together in a common direction, causing roadblocks, air, to rise to the surface, did the water move as quickly as possible with little variation. And that is why we should begin with Takt planning. A Takt plan is quickly created, easy to see, condensed enough for multiple people to interact with it, and effective as a communication tool. It is the best tool for identifying the proper overall project duration and can communicate problems with flow when the schedule attempts to fit within a stipulated end date or duration. The Takt plan is also very effective in showing how the building should be broken up into a work breakdown structure. Once the Takt plan is created, including all project phases per the proper takt time and showing the right throughput to meet the end date, then the plan properly shows milestones. Milestones are better identified with a Takt plan rather than systems like CPM. Once the team can see the overall project plan, the flow, the key transitions, and interfaces within the schedule, key milestones can be identified easily and effectively because they can be easily seen. This is important because project teams will want to begin planning as the current date approaches these milestones. This is called phase planning. Phase planning is done roughly the same way it is currently advocated in the industry with a few minor modifications. We still plan up to appropriate milestones, we still do it together as a team, and we get commitments by consent, but these are done by either adding detail to the Takt sequences in the macro level or on the day-to-day Takt format as a more detailed layout in the Takt plan. Basically, in this system, pull plans become Takt sequences. Once the team creates the coordinated plan and the sequence for the phase up to that milestone, the team will refine work packages within Takt wagons and the work steps in each work package within a takt time scale. Now the team has a plan where materials, information, equipment, and other planning can be made ready within a 6-week make-ready look-ahead view. Make-ready schedules do not need to be remade or duplicated. It is already shown in the takt plan on the macro and norm level. The team is able to plan materials, crews, information, and equipment to more accurate dates early enough to avoid variation. These look-ahead views can be 3 weeks, 6 weeks, or 4 months depending on what the project team needs. As resources are planned in this way, it enables a fanatical roadblock removal system. As teams look at each activity, it is best practice to ask the following questions. 1. Are materials on track to arrive for this activity? 2. Are they approved? 3. Is safety planning done for this activity? 4. Are all needed permissions available? 5. Is the right equipment scheduled for it? 6. Is all needed information available? 7. Are crews with the right person counts scheduled? 8. Are there any roadblocks preventing this activity from taking place? This is typically done with activity cards or a matrix with the activities to the left and the questions in the columns above to the right. Asking these questions enables a roadblock removal system. The removal of roadblocks should be the main focus of an effective and collaborative team. The making ready of work will always be more effective than adapting in the moment on a project site. Roadblocks need to be tracked in a manner that everyone on the project site can see and remove them and observe progress daily. Foremen, field engineers, project engineers, superintendents, project managers, and directors can easily spot and focus on potential problems. A visual board is suggested as well as visual maps and floor plans with roadblocks shown where they will affect work. Even if roadblocks are bulleted, as long as they are visual, the system will work. Then the team, including the director, makes the removal of roadblocks their primary responsibility. If this is done, then the work will be made ready for coordination with weekly work planning. Weekly work planning can happen with tags, tasks, or stickies on the board or planning tool, but with Takt, it is most effectively done directly within the Takt plan by following the work packages and the work steps within them. For standard, repeatable, and typical work, it is helpful to simply prepare work based on the Takt wagons within the time scale. For more complex work, Takt plans utilize the detail of a day-to-day format within the weekly work plan and can be shown on Takt cards, tags, stickies, dry erase markers on the board, or on your planning application. The weekly work plan should be in a location and format for key production activities to be filtered for the next week and shown in a way that supports Takt control. Takt control, also known as managing at the place of work, has the goal of placing control at the place of value creation. Short cycle daily meetings on site are considered particularly important. The meetings are moderated by the superintendent, and all other supers and foremen are responsible to take part. The site is managed through Takt control boards. These boards are also standardized and serve as a medium for visualization to achieve transparency. The key to motivating employees to take part in the meetings is to integrate them in the problem-solving process. The following key points are recorded on the Takt boards. 1. Number of workers per trade. 2. Rate of compliance with the Takt plan. 3. Defects in quality. 4. Safety figures. 5. Numbers of disruptions. 6. Information on cleanliness and tidiness. The artifacts that show this information are 1. Takt plan. 2. Weekly work plan. 3. Takt zone map. 4. Logistics plan. 5. Day plan agenda. 6. Production tracker. This is the Takt planning method of day planning. Day planning is much more than simply talking about the activities for the day. It is the discussion, coordination, issue resolution, and effective communication of the day's plan in a visual format. It should focus the group's mind on the end date, the next milestone, and key items that need to be discussed in a way that encompasses on-site interaction, productivity, and the location of all necessary resources. The goal is to achieve the highest percentage of plan comprehension from all workers on site. It doesn't make very much sense to spend months and years planning a project to then stop short of ensuring that every worker understands that plan. We do that by implementing the following huddles, and we start with the afternoon foreman huddles. The afternoon foreman huddle increases the ability of foremen to plan and arrange supportive elements with roughly 16 hours in between the meeting and when the next day begins. Work is planned for the next day in detail so all leaders see together, know together, and act together. But to act together, we need the buy-in and understanding of the workers as well. This huddle is the Takt control meeting, which becomes the meeting that supports day planning, and it ensures communication is reinforced in the morning worker huddle. So far, this system sounds similar to the last planner system, but here is where we improve on the current industry trends. The morning worker huddle encompasses the entire project site. For large projects, major divisions of workers by functional area huddle together every morning to form a social group with the project management team in an exchange of communication regarding expectations and needs. Workers should leave the huddle with clarity and a greater understanding of how to succeed on site, how to be safe, and feeling connected to the overall plan. They are then better able to plan their crew preparation huddle. The crew preparation huddle is not new, but it needs more support and standard implementation. In this huddle, the foremen spend 10 to 25 minutes with the workers discussing the pre-task plan, preparing work, 3S'ing, discussing the 8 wastes, and doing general training from the work steps created in the Takt work packages. These work steps can individually have checklists or feature of work boards as standard work. Every worker should leave with a pre-task plan for safety and quality and be able to work in the right environment with the materials, tools, space, information, equipment, and clear expectations to succeed in a stable environment. This truly answers, in the right way, the question, what do workers see? In this system, which surprisingly does not take much longer than other systems, the workers see as much of the plan as possible. Using TrueLast Planner, the workers might receive 50% of the planned information, which is a huge improvement, but not as good as the 75% achievement using the Integrated Production Control System, where information is sent all the way to the workers through Takt worksteps and huddles. Transfers of information which are not caused by this system but natural to construction are facilitated with clarity and opportunities to buy in. Also, there are fewer single points of failure. In the last planner system, the successful transfer of information from the first planners to the last planners to the workers hinges on the ability of the foreman to communicate that plan. In the Integrated Production Control System, the transfer of information to the workers takes multiple paths and does not rely on a single point. The bottom line is that workers can see the plan and can have input. So let's get started and learn how to build a Takt plan. So I hope you all have enjoyed this section. This next section, we're going to go right into how to build a Takt plan, and this will conclude our episode for today. On we go.
Please join us next time in elevating the entire construction experience for workers, leaders, and companies coast to coast. If you're enjoying the show, please feel free to share with your construction colleagues and help us